This happened last summer. I had just moved to a quiet little town, looking to escape the noise of city life. I was 32 and excited about my new job as a schoolteacher. The park behind my house seemed perfect for unwinding after long days. I thought it was peaceful. I wanted to connect with the community and enjoy my new life. I've never stopped thinking about it. I remember the first time I heard it. I was out walking my dog one warm evening. The sun was setting, and the park was full of life. Kids played on the swings, and the sound of laughter filled the air. But then I heard a woman's scream. It echoed from deep within the trees. I froze for a moment. I thought maybe it was just kids playing a prank or something. But that scream felt real and sent a chill down my spine. I shrugged it off, trying to reassure myself that there was nothing to worry about. Over the next few days, I continued to hear the screams. At first, they were faint and distant, but then they grew closer and more frantic. I began to feel uneasy each time I ventured into the park. My dog, usually so calm, would pull hard on the leash, wanting to turn back. I could hear rustling in the bushes, and sometimes, at the corner of my eye, I thought I saw shadows moving between the trees. I joked that it was just my imagination, but deep down, I wasn't so sure. One evening, I met a couple of locals while sipping coffee at a nearby cafe. They mentioned a woman who had gone missing years ago. It wasn't a happy story. They claimed her spirit roamed the park, causing unease for anyone who dared to enter at night. I felt a mix of dread and curiosity. Were they serious? It seemed silly to believe, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The next time I walked my dog, I couldn't help but glance into the darkening woods. My heart raced as the sun set lower, shadows stretching and twisting. A scream pierced the air. I stood frozen, my chest tightening. I tried to convince myself it was just an echo from earlier, but it felt brand new, like someone in real pain. I called my dog, but he was unwilling to move. Panic bubbled inside me, and I wrestled with the leash. I should just leave, but I felt pulled into the park's depths. I stepped forward, half expecting to see someone in need. A rustle caught my attention behind me. I turned quickly. Nothing was there. My heart was racing. I glanced around, and then I heard it again, a scream, much closer this time. Cold dread washed over me. I should have run. Instead, I hesitated, peering into the darkness. Then I heard footsteps. I think they were footsteps behind me. I turned around fast, but it was just shadows. I felt like I was being watched. I took a deep breath and stepped deeper into the shadows. The screams rang out again, echoing. "Hello?" I called. Silence answered me. Then I saw a flash of movement near the trees. It was quick, like someone running, disappearing just as fast. I wanted to go home, but something kept me there. Then, suddenly, I saw her. A woman, pale and wild-eyed, emerging from the darkness. She looked terrified, her mouth open in a silent scream. I opened my mouth to speak, but no sound came out. All I could do was watch as she pointed back to the trees. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. The memory of her scream filled my head. My dog whimpered, tugging at the leash, but I stood still, rooted in fear. What was behind her? What horrid secret lay in the shadows? The scream seemed to hang in the air, stretching time as I stared at the woman. She was not just terrified, she looked desperate. My heart thudded in my chest, and I finally found my voice amid the panic. "What happened?" I croaked. But the answer never came. Instead, she turned and darted back into the darkness of the trees. A deep instinct told me to follow, but the rational part of my brain yelled to run in the opposite direction. My dog yanked at the leash again, pulling me towards safety. I felt torn, terrified yet compelled by a need to help. The woman was clearly in distress, and if someone was hurting her, I had to do something. I took a shaky step forward, ignoring the cold sweat on my palms. Then I heard it again, a long, drawn-out scream. This time it felt like it was coming from my own chest. I blinked, trying to shake off the fear that gripped me. I had to understand what was happening. But as I stood there, the shadows grew thicker, swirling around the trees. The daylight was now just a memory, fading quickly. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps returned, closer this time, and not made by my dog. I spun around, dread curling in my stomach. A figure emerged from the dark, but it wasn't he, the woman. It was a man, silhouetted against the dying light. He stood still, watching me. My breath caught in my throat. Did he know her? Was he searching for her? "Help her," he said, his voice echoing oddly in the stillness. "You need to help her." "What?" I asked, my voice a mere whisper, tangled in confusion. Before he could reply, movement caught my attention. The woman reappeared, moving back toward us but seemingly more frantic. Her eyes darted between me and the man. I sensed something sinister. My instincts screamed at me to leave, yet I felt paralyzed. The man's face twisted into a menacing smile. "She is trapped, and you're the key." The woman's gaze never left mine, pleading. I could see she was terrified of him. This was worse than I imagined, and panic surged through me. My dog growled low, sensing the growing threat. I wanted to help, but fear held me in place, and I was screaming inside my head for it all to be over. That's when the ground shook beneath my feet. A low rumble vibrated through the earth, as if something monstrous was awaking beneath the park. I glanced at both of them, the man still grinning and the woman trembling. "Run!" The woman finally screamed, her voice breaking through my paralysis. Instinct kicked in, and I turned to flee. I pulled on the leash hard, urging my dog to follow. We sprinted into the night, away from the park and the terror that resided within it. But as I glanced back, I saw the man take a step forward, reaching out in my direction. And in that moment, a chilling realization hit me: whatever was happening in that park was far from over. I needed answers. Darkness was closing in, and there was no way I could ignore it any longer. What was hidden among those trees? And what had I just unleashed? The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that surrounded me. I sat at my kitchen table, staring absently at my cup of coffee. My dog, Max, lay at my feet, oblivious to the chaos in my mind. I replayed the events from the park over and over, desperate to make sense of it. Who was that woman? What was the man after? I decided I had to go back. Ignoring the butterflies in my stomach, I felt drawn to the park. There were too many questions left unanswered. My heart raced as I prepared for the trip, adrenaline mixing with determination. I needed to know what was buried in those shadows. Arriving at the park felt surreal. The sun shone brightly above, contrasting the horror of the night before. I hesitated at the entrance, my determination wavering. Then, I felt Max bump against my leg, urging me forward. With a deep breath, I stepped inside. I cautiously walked along the familiar path, scanning the area for any sign of the woman or the man. The trees loomed beside me, a silent reminder of the fear I had felt. A rustle in the bushes made me jump. I whipped around, but it was only a squirrel scurrying away. As I continued deeper into the woods, I noticed something glimmering on the ground. I made my way toward it, brushing aside fallen leaves to reveal a small pendant. It was a silver locket, intricately designed but slightly tarnished. I flipped it open, and my breath hitched. Inside was a photo of the woman from last night and a small piece of paper with a series of numbers, 1-5-6-3-2. Why would she drop this? What did the numbers mean? My chest tightened as I pondered the possibilities. I slipped the locket into my pocket, feeling a sense of urgency clutching at me. I got the feeling I wasn't alone here, and I couldn't shake off the sensation of being watched. Suddenly, I heard a crack of a twig behind me. I spun around, heart racing again. It was him, the man from the park, his expression cold and unsettling. "I see you found something," he said, glancing at my pocket, his voice smooth like ice. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my mind racing for a plan to escape. He took a step closer, his presence almost suffocating. "A guardian of sorts. But you are in the way," he said, a smile creeping across his face. Before I could process his words, he lunged forward, but I was already running, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I dashed back the way I came, but the thick trees seemed to close around me. Just as I stumbled into a clearing, I spotted the woman again. She was standing there, her eyes wide with panic, but now she was reaching out toward me. "You have to come back," she yelled. "Back?" I repeated, confusion overwhelming my fear. "Back where?" But before she could answer, a rush of cold air swept through, and darkness clouded my vision. Everything went black. Then everything went dark. I gasped as consciousness returned in a rush of confusion. The sudden jolt sent sharp pain through my side, and I realized I was on the ground, damp earth beneath me. My heart pounded, and I could hear muffled sounds, a distant echo of shouting. I blinked several times, trying to adjust to the dim light. I was still in the park, but it felt different. The trees appeared twisted and dark, creeping shadows lurking just beyond my vision. Panic set in. Where was Max? Where was the woman? I scrambled to my feet, my legs unsteady. The feeling of being watched intensified. A low murmur drifted through the trees, a familiar voice tinged with urgency. "Help! Please!" It was her, the woman. I took off in the direction of her voice, dodging branches that scratched at my arms. The fear of being pursued spurred me on. I stumbled into a small clearing and froze. She was there, standing near a gnarled tree. Her expression was frantic, eyes darting around as if she were expecting something to jump out at her. "Please, you have to trust me," she yelled, her hands raised, but my mind buzzed with uncertainty. "Who are you?" I shouted back, panic tightening my chest. "Why are you here?" "They'll come for you. You have to listen, this isn't what it seems," she cried, backing away from the shadows that seemed to slither closer. I caught a glimpse of a figure lurking behind the trees, and my blood ran cold. "Wait!" I called, but she was already moving, her steps quick and panicked. "You need to tell me what is happening." She turned, desperation flashing across her face. "The numbers. You need to remember the numbers." Before I could respond, the man stepped into the clearing. His aura was menacing, a predator closing in on prey. "You should have stayed away," he said, his tone dripping with malice. It sent a wave of terror through me. I instinctively looked back at the woman. "What do the numbers mean?" I shouted, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos. "Just trust me," she pleaded, fear lacing her voice. "They'll come for you if you don't move." And then, a rumble echoed above us, heavy footsteps approaching. Panic surged inside me, propelling me into action. I needed to get out of there. The woman darted toward a narrow path that veered off to the right. I hesitated, torn between the creeping darkness behind me and the uncertain safety of the unknown. I caught the man's gleaming eyes locking onto me, and that was enough. Without thinking, I plunged down the narrow path after her, the branches clawing at my clothes. Whatever was happening, I had to trust her. The man's laughter chased after me, cruel and chilling, but I pushed it out of my mind. I couldn't stop now. Then, I heard it, a scream piercing through the chaos, a cry for help. It wasn't the woman's voice. My stomach dropped. That's when I realized I wasn't just running from someone. I was running towards something terrifying. I pushed deeper into the underbrush, branches snapping back at me like angry fingers. As I ran, the scream echoed in my mind, filling me with dread. I had to keep moving. Whatever was happening back there was closing in. The path twisted sharply, disorienting me. A part of me wanted to turn around, to abandon this madness, but fear fueled my steps. I had to find the woman. I had to understand what the numbers meant. Suddenly, I burst into another clearing. It was larger than the last, illuminated by a strange, pale light that didn't seem to belong to the world around it. In the center stood a stone pedestal, draped in vines. My heart raced. What was this place? I scanned the area but found no sign of the woman. Panic bubbled up inside me. Was she here? I called out, "Where are you?" My voice trembled, swallowed by the oppressive stillness. And then I spotted it, a glint on the ground near the pedestal. I moved closer, my curiosity overwhelming my fear. It was a small piece of paper, crumpled and damp. I knelt to pick it up, my fingers trembling as I unfolded it. Numbers. A sequence of them, 3-7-5-2-9. I stared at the paper, confusion washing over me. What did they mean? Was this a clue? Or a warning? A rustling sound broke through my thoughts, jolting me upright. I turned just in time to see the woman re-emerge from the trees, breathless and wild-eyed. Relief washed over me, but it quickly faded as I noted the fear in her expression. "We have to go," she urged, glancing back toward where I had come from. "What about the man?" I asked, gripping the paper tightly. "He's right behind us." "Not yet," she said, her voice low and urgent. "But he will be. You have to remember the numbers. They're the only way to keep him away." "What do they mean?" I pressed, needing more than cryptic directions. "They're a protection. A barrier, but only if they're spoken aloud at the right moment," she explained, her eyes wide with anxiety. "I can't do it for you. You have to say them." Before I could ask for more details, the ground trembled again beneath us. The ominous sound of heavy footsteps echoed closer. I glanced back, heart racing, and was met with a figure emerging from the shadows, a massive, looming shape. The darkness clung to him like a cloak. "Run!" she cried, grabbing my arm. I didn't need telling twice. I turned, racing alongside her. We dashed toward a line of trees that seemed to stretch endlessly. With every stride, I replayed the numbers in my mind, unsure when I'd need to use them. Would I even have a chance? But then I heard it again, the scream. It wasn't just a call for help. It sounded familiar now, like a cry echoing through my very being. It was a sound I couldn't ignore. I hesitated, glancing back at her. What if we need to help whoever that is? She grabbed me again, refusal and fear on her face. "We can't. Trust me, if we stay here, he'll find us." And as the weight of uncertainty grew heavier, I knew I had a decision to make. I could keep running into the unknown or risk everything to turn back. Before I could process it, I felt the air shift, a chill creeping up my spine. Someone was behind us. I didn't have time to think. The scream kept echoing in my ears, desperate and haunting. Who was it? Why did it feel like part of my own soul was being wrenched apart? I forced the thought away. I couldn't get trapped in confusion now. The woman tugged at my arm, pulling me deeper into the thicket. I stumbled, branches clawing at my clothes. My breath came in quick bursts. "We have to find a way out," I said between gasps. "Yes, but we can't run blindly," she responded, glancing back over her shoulder. Her fear was palpable, but so was her determination. "We have to observe. The numbers, they don't mean anything without context." I shot back, frustration mixing with my anxiety. Just then, I noticed something dart past our path, a flicker of movement in the shadows. It was gone before I could register what it was, but my heart raced. "Did you see that?" "Something moved," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She nodded, her eyes narrowing. Whatever it is, it's close. We have to stick together. We pressed on, adrenaline driving us forward. As we stepped into another clearing, I scanned the trees frantically. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Suddenly, the bushes rustled violently to our left, and I felt my stomach drop. In a matter of heartbeats, the woman spoke the words I dreaded, "It's coming." The sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, almost synchronized with the pounding of my heart. I turned to the woman, panic written across my face. "What do I do with the numbers? I don't know how to use them." "Just remember them," she shouted. "Wait for the right moment." Only you can. Before she finished, the ground shook again. Something was charging through the underbrush toward us. I felt an overwhelming urge to brace myself, to yell for help. But instead, I clasped the crumpled paper tighter and closed my eyes, willing the numbers to come into focus. And then I saw it, part of the figure emerging from the trees. It was enormous, its outline distorted by the dim light. A moment's clarity washed over me. I knew I had to act, but fear paralyzed me. "Now!" she screamed, snapping me back to reality. I opened my mouth, trying to summon the numbers, but they felt locked behind a wall of terror. I took a deep breath, making my voice steady. 3, 7, 5, 2, 9. With every shouted number, the air seemed to vibrate, a hum of energy spiraled around us, pushing against the encroaching shadow. The creature paused, a primal growl escaping its lips, but the moment didn't last long. It seemed confused, and just as quickly, it charged forward. "Keep going. It's working," the woman yelled. I began shouting the numbers again, louder this time, as if music could sway the creature. And then it stopped, a strange barrier pulsating between us and our threat. The woman pulled me back, her face tense. "It's keeping him at bay." But we need to move. Just then, the trees began to sway violently, and a branch snapped dangerously close. I felt the ground tremble once more, but this time I wasn't sure if it was just the creature's wrath or something worse. "Let us go." She yanked my arm, propelling us forward. We took off again, sprinting deeper into the forest, unsure of where we were headed. But the scream still lingered in my mind, calling me back. Would I regret leaving whoever was crying for help? Just then, a new scream pierced the air, echoing with genuine terror. It was close and unmistakably human. It was only when I turned to look back that I realized, we weren't alone anymore. I spun around, my heart pounding like a drum. The woman beside me paused, her eyes wide with alarm. "What was that?" "I don't know," I replied, my voice rising in pitch. It felt like the forest was closing in on us. "Do we go back?" "No. We can't." She grabbed my arm firmly, dragging me forward. "If there is someone else, they're in even more danger. We have to find an exit." But the screams continued, rising and falling like waves crashing against a shore. It was agonizing, each cry sending a shiver down my spine. "We can't just leave them," I protested. "We don't know what's out there," she shot back. "We can't save anyone if we end up as their next victims." As the screams faded, a heavy silence fell over the clearing. I strained to hear anything, but all that filled the air was a deafening stillness. I glanced around, searching for signs of life, anything that could indicate another presence. Suddenly, the underbrush to our right rustled again, not like the creature we feared, but like something smaller, more agile. I turned quickly, but whatever it was seemed to retreat into the shadows. "Did you see that?" I whispered. She nodded slowly. "We need to be cautious. Whatever it is, it's not our friend." Just then, another sound pierced the silence, a crack in the distance, like a branch snapping underfoot. I felt my stomach drop again. "What was that?" "I don't think it's the creature," she breathed, her voice low. I think there is something else here." The realization hit me like a cold wave. We weren't just running from one threat, there were multiple dangers lurking in the dark. I gripped the crumpled paper tighter, the numbers still swirling in my mind. What did they mean? How were they supposed to help me? Listen, the woman said, urgency creeping into her tone. We have to either confront whatever that is or find a way to protect ourselves. Protect us how? I exclaimed, panic wrestling with reason. I don't even understand these numbers. Her eyes darted back to the shadows as something flickered amid the branches. Focus. Remember what you said. If you can call it out again, it might give us an advantage. But the fear was swallowing me, making it hard to think. What if I mess it up? What if? Then we won't have a chance. She snapped, cutting me off. Her tone shook me from my thoughts. I gathered what I could muster and prepared to shout again, but words caught in my throat. Anxiety choked me. What if this really was it? 3, 7, 5, 2, 9. I yelled, somehow feeling a surge of conflict dissolve with the act of calling out the numbers. The air around us vibrated, and I realized I could feel the power build. But instead of keeping the threat at bay, there was a shift. The shadows coalesced, forming a silhouette that loomed larger in the darkness. Desperate energy coursed through me as I knew this was a moment of choice. With newfound determination, I looked back at the woman. I'm going to keep going. We can't give up now. But she didn't respond, her expression morphed into one of sheer horror as the figure finally stepped into the dim light, revealing a face I didn't expect to see. Help me, it said, voice trembling with fear. Everything in me screamed to run, but instead, I stood frozen, paralyzed by the revelation and uncertainty of who that person was. I blinked, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. The figure in front of me was a familiar face, someone I hadn't seen in weeks. It was Mark, a friend I thought I had lost to the chaos of the city. But now, here he was dirty, disheveled, and looking more terrified than I had ever seen him. Mark? I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. What happened to you? Before he could answer, the shadows behind him shifted again. My instincts screamed at me to move, to pull the woman beside me to safety. But I was rooted in place, caught between disbelief and fear. Please, you need to help me. Mark pleaded, his dark eyes wide with desperation. I was trying to get out of here. I can't stay. Where are we? What is going on? The words tumbled out, fueled by a mix of confusion and concern. There is something in the woods, he continued, glancing over his shoulder like he could feel a presence in the darkness. Something unnatural. It hunts at night. I didn't know it was real. Nobody did. Then why did you come here? The woman beside me finally spoke, her voice steady but with an edge of panic. I thought I could find help. I thought I could warn you. Mark's gaze fixed on me, pleading. But it's not safe. We have to get out. His urgency snapped me back to reality. The silence around us felt heavy, charged, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. I exchanged a glance with the woman, trying to gauge her thoughts. Should we trust him? Could he still lead us to safety? You need to tell us more, she insisted, stepping forward. If we're going to follow you, we need to know what we're up against. Before Mark could respond, another noise crashed through the night, a deep growl from somewhere in the distance. It was lower than before, resonating through my bones, sending chills spiraling down my spine. Mark's expression shifted from fear to sheer panic. We don't have time. He shouted, grabbing my arm. We have to move now. But I hesitated. What about the numbers? I don't know what they mean. They might be able to help. Numbers? Mark's face twisted with confusion. What numbers? I fumbled with the paper in my pocket, feeling the weight of its importance, the urgency of the moment pressing down on me. They might forget the numbers. He interrupted, practically pulling me toward the trees. They won't help us now. This isn't just about escaping, it's about surviving. The shadows were moving closer, the promise of something lurking just beyond the light terrifying me into action. I looked at the woman. I didn't want to leave her behind. But I felt the pull to follow Mark. He had been here, trapped like us. Let us go. I yelled back, marshalling every bit of courage. But as we turned to run, I felt a sharp tug on my ankle, and everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness engulfed me, my heart racing. Suddenly, I hit the ground hard. The cold earth pressed against my hands. I scrambled to my feet and turned around, trying to find my bearings. Mark! I called out, my voice shaky. Over here. His voice came from my right, and I dashed toward it, feeling the damp leaves crunch under my sneakers. The night was thick with tension. I could hear the rustle of branches, like something was still lurking nearby. I found Mark crouched behind a tree, eyes darting. You okay? He asked, his voice strained. I nodded, trying to catch my breath. Where's the woman? I looked around, expecting to see her following closely, but she was nowhere in sight. Panic bubbled up inside me again. She must have fallen back. We can't wait, Mark said, his face pale with worry. But we have to move. He urged, his grip tightening on my arm. If it gets her, I didn't want to think about it. I followed him, praying she was okay. We slipped deeper into the woods, just as the growl echoed again. This time it was closer, more menacing. What kind of creature is it? I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know. Mark replied, his eyes wide. It came to life in the dark. I'd only heard stories, but I thought they were just that, stories. My mind raced with what that meant. Stories could have truths hidden within them. What does it look like? Never saw it clearly. Just shadows and teeth, lots of teeth. He forced out with a shudder. I felt a surge of adrenaline as we stumbled through the underbrush. The night seemed to swirl around us, each movement heavy with the possibility of danger. We can't keep going this way, I said sharply, forcing myself to think logically. We need a plan. Mark stopped, breathing heavily. There's a cabin nearby. It's old, but it's a place to wait until morning. Is it safe? I don't know, but it's better than running into the woods forever. Before I could respond, another growl erupted nearby, making the ground vibrate. We both froze, staring into the darkness. I felt the dread wash over me. We need to go, now. Mark hissed. I turned, scanning the shadows. My heart pounded as I caught a glimpse of something moving. It was fast, darting between the trees. I couldn't tell if it was big or small, but that didn't matter. Run! I shouted, and we both took off, fear driving us forward. The forest twisted and turned, branches snagging at my clothes like fingers trying to hold me back. I could hear Mark close behind, yelling for me to keep up. Then I tripped over a root, falling headfirst. I gasped as pain radiated through my ankle. Looking up, I saw the creature emerge from the shadows. It was massive and covered in matted fur, glowing eyes locked onto me. I struggled to get to my feet, but it lunged. Just as it was about to close the distance, a loud crack echoed through the air. What was that? I screamed as darkness swallowed the scene. Then everything went silent. I awoke with a start, disoriented and lying on a hard surface. My head throbbed, and a dull ache radiated from my ankle. I blinked in a dim light, trying to process my surroundings. I was in a small room, the walls rough and wooden. I pushed myself up, glancing around. It smelled like dampness and decay. Where was I? Mark? I croaked, voice dry. No answer. My heart raced as old fears flooded back. Panic began to creep in when a voice nearby spoke softly, you're safe. I turned towards the sound. The woman stood by the door, her wild eyes now calm, as if the turmoil of the forest had parted like dark clouds. You're okay. We're in the cabin. What cabin? I asked, my words laced with confusion. The creature it can't get in here, she assured me, her voice steady. The cabin acts as a barrier. What about Mark? I hoped desperately that he was here and okay. I climbed to my feet, still wobbly. She hesitated, looking down. He tried to distract it, get it away from you. What do you mean? My stomach twisted as dread pooled in my gut. He said he could buy us time, she interrupted. We can still help him. We have to be brave. But as I processed her words, a chilling realization sunk in. What do I do? The numbers, she replied, producing the crumpled paper I had found earlier. You have to say them again, and the barrier will help keep him safe while we find him. But how do you know that? I asked, confusion still clouding my thoughts. I've seen it before. Trust me, she said. Her sincerity cut through some of my fear. I took a deep breath, replaying the numbers in my mind. 3, 7, 5, 2, 9, I repeated, feeling the air thrum in response. Suddenly, the walls of the cabin vibrated as shadows flitted outside the windows. I glanced around, anxiety creeping in. Nothing felt certain here. What if it doesn't work? I asked, desperation lacing my voice. It will, she said again, this time more firmly. But we have to act quickly. I nodded, resolving to block out the panic. I grabbed her arm. Are you ready? Together, we stepped out into the heavy twilight. The woods loomed ominously all around us, the trees like guardians keeping secrets. A shiver ran down my spine as I thought of Mark. I could feel the gravity of the situation weighing down our every step. Stay close, I whispered, scanning with dread for the creature. Each rustle of leaves made my heart race. We moved cautiously, pushing deeper into the woods, driven by urgency. But my mind was locked onto the thought of Mark, the distance he'd put between us. I couldn't bear to think of what might happen next. The forest swallowed us, shadows dancing in the fading light. With every moment that passed, uncertainty loomed. What kind of creature had we awoken? And could the numbers truly safeguard us? Just then, a piercing scream severed the silence, one I had heard before. My heart dropped as realization washed over me. It was Mark. The woman glanced at me, her expression confirming what I already feared. We have to go back. Without hesitation, I nodded. Fear surged through me as we raced toward the source of the sound. Mark! I called. Dread curled in my chest with every step we took, but we had to act. I didn't know if I was running toward salvation or a trap. Shadows flitted by us, obscured by the thick cover of trees. As we approached a clearing, I spotted him. Mark was standing, gazing into the darkened wood, his back turned to us. Relief washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the figure lurking behind him. Mark! I shouted again, my voice cracking with urgency. He turned, wide-eyed, and in that moment, the creature sprang from the shadows behind him, baring its teeth. Time slowed as adrenaline surged, and I felt the numbers boiling in my throat. 3, 7, 5, 2, 9. I shouted, repeating the sequence frantically. The air crackled as an invisible energy pulsed toward the monstrous figure. It hesitated, stunned by the barrier that seemed to form around us. Keep going. The woman cried, her voice urging me forward. 3, 7, 5, 2, 9. I yelled. Again, hoping to hold the darkness at bay. The creature roared in fury as shadows writhed around it, fighting against the energy that radiated from me. Mark's face twisted in horror as he ducked away. Stay back. I yelled, desperation in my voice. The woman pressed forward, coaxing Mark to retreat. We need to go, now. But it didn't. He let up. The creature lunged, snapping its jagged jaws just inches from Mark. I clenched my fists, shouting the numbers once more, and felt power surging through me. Mark! Run! I screamed, my heart aching for him. He shot forward, the woman beside me. In that moment, everything felt suspended, the world held its breath as one final call echoed through the trees. 5. 2. 9. And then, silence. With a horrendous roar, the creature thrashed as the barrier engulfed it. I squeezed my eyes shut, time freezing in a whirlwind of fear and adrenaline. And then it was gone. I opened my eyes, relief flooding my chest. Mark stood there, breathless, eyes wide with gratitude. The woman turned to me, her expression softening. You did it. We're safe. But just as a wave of relief washed over me, questions loomed around like shadows. What had I just witnessed in the forest? Were the powers of the numbers a true protection or only a temporary fix? The darkness in the woods lingered like an unwelcome guest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. As we stood there, I knew one thing for sure, our lives had been changed irrevocably by what lurked in the shadows. I might never fully understand what happened that night or what the numbers truly meant. But each time I glanced back into the woods, I couldn't help but wonder if whatever had awakened while we screamed for help was still waiting for its moment among the trees.